Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the NRG Series Team Trios Modern event. 10K on the line this weekend. We are obviously live in Indianapolis. My name is Will Hall, better known on the internet as the Will Hall EXP. And I'm joined in the virtual news booth by Julian Nab, and we are the European casting team this morning. We're going to take you through for a couple more rounds before we pass it off to the amazing Mason Clark and Joe Lissette. But a lot on the line this weekend, right? We started off yesterday with a Pioneer Showdown. We had 227 players battling out in 9 rounds of Pioneer action. We've cut to top 8 before we were able to crown Jonathan Hobbs our victor, getting himself an invite to the Player of the Year Championship playoff. 16 players are going to be battling out in that for their share of $25,000. Nothing to sniff your nose up. And we need to put emphasis on that. Okay, sometimes you go to tournaments, sometimes you spike it. That's awesome. That's magic. But sometimes you turn up and you just don't get there, but you always pick up good consecutive finishes. And that is what's been happening throughout the year for a lot of players. The top 6 of those players this year grinding in the NRG series are going to also find themselves there. We've got this weekend to go in this Team Trios portion at a load of points, and then one more in Wisconsin. So make sure if you haven't hit that follow button, you hit that follow button and you stay up to date on all the different socials from the NRG. Maybe you want to go back and watch some of their past events. They also have a YouTube channel. Go hit the follow on the YouTube channel. Stay up to date on everything that is going on. We need to support the NRG series the best we can so they can keep bringing this awesome paper magic to us. Julian, we are going into round number 3, which means we are going to have another 6 players sat down. That potentially could be 6 more modern decks. Chatters, let us know what decks they want to see. What deck do you want to see this round if you could pick?
Okay, if I could pick, it would definitely be Yawgmoth. The gold standard. Okay, I want to see Yawgmoth. I definitely, I was going to say Splintered when I just broke a lot of hearts, I know. I was just like in my head, I was going through my favorite decks of all time. No, I want to see Yawgmoth. I don't know why, but I kind of want to see Tron. I'm with you kind of on the side. It's like the bad guy in the format, but you know, you still need a villain for a good movie. So I want to see Tron go up in a really hard match. I want to see some really weird combo deck that nobody ever understands, because I feel like there's always something out there. People are mentioning Bring to Light. I think we can go a lot weirder. What else is there?
I'd say Upsil Spells would be up there. I'd be surprised if someone brings Upsil Spells.
I was going to say maybe Titan. Like, people who know their way around Titan, that's always an amazing thing to watch. Maybe even Titan against some kind of control deck, because I think that's where it can really shine. And honestly, okay, I don't know, maybe that's weird, but I kind of want to see some good old-fashioned Burn. Just like Burn in its purest form, going up against whatever the latest tech. I'm actually not sure how good the matchup of Burn against
Beans is, maybe. Well, so the thing with Burn is, if you don't prepare your 75, there's a chance that you could face Burn. You're going to lose to Burn, right? Like, if people don't come prepared for it, you're going to lose to it. When they come prepared for it, if you're on the Burn side, you're going to have yourself a real hard day. And that's modern, right? That's why we love these big alternate formats, is because there's so many different decks out there. There's so many card decks, and the right day can win a tournament, take it down. Not just tier 1s, but tier 2s, even tier 3 decks, if you like to categorize them that way, can take down big tournaments. They just need the right run or against different pairings that can happen. Sometimes you can just dodge, you know, the evoke deck all day, or sometimes you will be played against the evoke decks all day long. And Yawgmoth obviously famously has a pretty bad matchup against those evoke decks. I'm getting word in my ear that the players are sitting down, getting ready, shuffling up. So we're going to find out which players are battling out and which decks they have brought for today. So we're getting our playing screen. Looks like we've got Cliff versus Sean. Then looking at the opening hands, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I can't get a good look at it. So you're going to be with us, chat. Let us know if you can ping which decks are out. We might have a Bean Mirror. That is where I'm going with.
You need a fancy name. You need a fancy name for a Bean Mirror. Like, what do you call it when everybody brings beans to the table?
Okay, yeah, it's definitely going to be Bean on the right of our screen. What about on the left? There's not many decks. Well, there's a couple of decks to start off with Triumphs, but we might have ourselves an Omnath Mirror here, ladies and gentlemen. So if we do, make sure you sit down, strap up, because this is going to go on for a little while. But we do have the ability. We've got some power, me and Julian. We can flex on that, and we can move to the other tables if needs be. If this one looks like it is going to be going super, super long. But first, we need to confirm that not everything is solid. I do believe it is a Bean deck on the left, as we see up the beanstalk brought to the front of the hand. What is that deck on the left? That is what I need to try and find out.
It says Beans Control right now on screen, but we are still adjusting that. So, chat, if you want to help us out, complete the puzzle, definitely let us know.
If it's a Bean Mirror, I'm going on the edge of we just go to table 2. but we're because this is going to go no matter. I'm pretty sure this is a beans mirror.
Is there any way that, like, in classic, let's say, Merkle stacks, sometimes the matches would go long, but they would get decided very early on, like by counterlock top? Is there anything in Bean's mirror where you, like, if you get the upper hand early on, you like run away with the game 20 turns later?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is going to come. This is going to be a long game. If I see Up the Beanstalk hit the battlefield now, Sam, I want you to take us to table 2. And we'll go to table 2 right now.
Okay, table 2 coming up. Alex Hamilton against.
This seems a little bit better. So this is what we've seen. Everyone, we actually chat what you wanted to see, and I saw a lot of people asking for scales. We have granted your wish. Here is Hun Scales versus, I believe it is going to be. I'm gonna go on a bet that it's Rakdos Evoke. Yeah, it's Rakdos Evoke versus Hardened Scales. And then at the bottom of my screen, we see that there is a Golgari Yawgmoth Let's Go versus Living End. That in itself can be a pretty interesting matchup. But, we're going to test ourselves with some math. We see a Hardened Scales already on the battlefield. That is what the alternate art of that card just got printed in the Wild Owl Drain set. That's why you see the Walking Ballista come down with 2 counters on it, because Hardened Scales, the namesake card of this deck, whenever a creature will end the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter, and is with an additional one.
So I was told when Hardened Scales comes down on the first turn, the deck is actually too good for Modern. And if it doesn't come down on the first turn, it's not good enough for Modern. Is that a little bit too much of a simplification?
No, I 100% agree with that. I believe once if they have a turn 1 Hun Scales, it's going to be a super hard game to try and fight and win. If they don't have it, it's kind of just a weird dawdly deck that's going to fight. As we see another Thoughtseize come down here, we've got a Ancient Stirrings and double Agatha's Cauldron. So we're going to get rid of one of those that Ancient Stirrings. Agatha's Cauldron is going to come down either way, but next turn, because there's 2 copies in the hand, and potentially we might be able to see how powerful this card can be.
Yeah, it's on its way to a multi-format all-star by now. There are tons of different combos enabled by it. You already told me about how you can turn all of your creatures into planeswalkers with that, even, right? If you remove, let's say, Grist or something.
Yeah, Grist is just super powerful, basically.
Overall, it should even be like all by itself should be decent against Scam, right? I guess it's kind of hard to keep up the mana for the activation all the time, but I would feel like Adams is going to be really happy here, right, with that kind of opening.
Yeah. They're going to be all over this as we play. Yeah, this is a kind of one from Modern Horizons 2, I believe this came in. It's got a lot of different text on it, and especially because it is a legendary. I'm trying to remember the name off the top of my head as I quickly try
something wasp.
It begins with Z. I can't remember that. It's like
Sabas.
That's it. Sabas, the Glimmer Wasp coming down. There it is on the screen for everybody to see. It is a 2/2 because remember it does any of a +1 additional +1/+1 counter. Has modular 1, which means when it dies we can move it across. We can pay 1 red. We can destroy target artifact you control. We can pay 1 white. We can give it flying until end of turn. But more importantly, if a modular trigger would put a 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you may put +1 counters. It's got a kind of its own Hardened Scales effect built into it. If it becomes later game and we start getting some of the the big hitters on the battlefield, mainly Arcbound Ravager is the bigger modular one that can kind of float back and forth here.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? When you look at this card without any knowledge of competitive Magic, you're like, I can play a red to, oh great, destroy target artifact you control. Like, why would I ever play this? But after going up against this, it can actually be quite annoying, right? Because you can trigger the modular ability of other creatures by sacrificing them to the Wasp, and then you get the additional benefit of the triggered ability, or the modular ability of this one, as well as the Hardened Scales. I think whenever I see Scales on screen, I feel like, put your hands up once you lose control of everything that's going on, because it's just completely out of control, especially once you're eventually able to move all of the counters over to a Walking Ballista and then shoot the opponent. Like, I've seen games where literally there was like a single attack for like 10, and then the Walking Ballista shoots for another 10 and the game ends in a single swing. It's kind of scary, honestly.
The problem I have with this deck when I see it on camera and play it myself is working out what triggers the stacking. So obviously we've got the Hun Scales on the battlefield, we've got the Zabath on the battlefield. If I now sacrifice the Zabath and pick the counters across, do I get the Hun Scale ones and the Zabath ones? Do I only get one of them? It's a deck that rewards you for picking the timing and grinding with it, which realistically that's Modern in a nutshell. If you spend the time on your deck, you're going to be able to work it out. We see players like Nikachu piloting things like Merfolk to a really good finish in a lot of different tournaments. Not something people classically call a tier 1 deck, but he just knows how to play that deck. He knows what his role is in different matchups when he's battling it out. But no cards in hand now. We're living off the top of our deck. Shadow Spear is a nice one to find off the top. That's going to let us gain a little bit of life potentially later on down the line. We're going to just come across for 2 because this Grief with the evoke effect coming down, getting both Agatha's Cauldrons into the graveyard. Not so great when it's in the graveyard.
I love how you have to like sometimes piece things together from interactions that you didn't really intend to. For example, Adams probably didn't come here thinking, hey, I'm going to put my spear on my wasp and then get in with lifelink damage in the air to raise a grief. But just because of the nature of the deck and all these like different tiny interactions that you're trying to maximize, sometimes you end up in a board stack like this and yeah, we're going to get a cauldron down. Like, this is what I like to call like an EDH board state, right? If you look at this, you would think, okay, we are playing like the best of all the cool decks on all the cool cards. And eventually we're just going to get to a position that we didn't really anticipate, but we're surely going to take advantage of.
Yeah. So let's see how everyone's going to move this forward. Grief is a good one, especially once it's got a 4/3 body. Yeah, 4/3 body because it's got the new Wicked Roll, kind of an upgrade that they all got.
So I'm right now. It's kind of awkward in Modern, right? When you're in this early game, I guess it's for Alex. It's not that much an early game anymore. Alex down to 9 life, facing us. That like 9. I guess that's 2 counters on it, so it's like 9 damage in the air. Adams out of cards, so for them it's actually going to be all in on this, right? And sometimes I'm trying to pick up. Oh, maybe the cards are being dropped. No, we're all in on this wasp. And for Alex, like you basically, you know what? You want to kill the wasp as soon as possible, right? Because as soon as Adams is going to untap, they are going to have the activation of the Yawgmoth Nexus available, so the wasp would be able to transfer the counters, and then we start all again with infect counters.
Yeah,
this is already a little bit tricky. And Alex sitting here on like a land. What's the other card in there?
The other one is it's one of the scam effects. Remember, there's a Hardened Scales in the graveyard, so we can exile that, potentially turning the wasp itself into a walking ballisted ability. It would obviously gain extra counters because there's Hardened Scale on the battlefield as well. So could, at 9 life, could just be over next turn, especially if there's 2 creatures in the graveyard that we can exile. Because remember, every time Cauldron exiles a creature, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature that we control.
That's actually what's happening. I would have totally fallen for that. I would have certainly not seen that. And I guess, as you mentioned, right, that's one of the ways that you get a leg up, and especially Modern, like all these non-rotating formats. If you're a master of your deck and you go against somebody who's not as familiar with it, you could sometimes like kill them out of nowhere. Or I guess in some cases they don't even have a choice and just like die to it.
Right, big draw step. Didn't use Cauldron end of turn. Maybe playing round some sort of removal. We'll find out how we want to go about this. Grief is back on blocking duties. Only at 9 life, we need to kind of protect that. We see there at the bottom of your screen, Fletcher has picked up a win with Living End versus Golgari Yawgmoth. No shock here that the Being Control Mirror is still going in game number 1.
Can I send an official complaint to Wizards of the Coast? As somebody who once missed a top 8 because he looked at an artwork, saw the creature was flying, didn't block and died. How does Savas not have flying? Like, seriously.
Well, you can give it flying, right? Pay 1 white.
Yeah, but come on. You look at that, you think like it's going to have flying outright. Okay. Does it really take like a white mana to send it to the air?
This is a big draw. Arcbound Ravager hitting the battlefield. So again, 2 counters on it, but we've got the ability to start sacrificing if we need to. Now things like Yawgmoth can be a lethal kill moving forward. Here's the Walking Blister being exiled. Means we put a +1/+1 counter on either of our 2 creatures. Which
and I guess that makes it like a 2/2 basically.
Yeah. So it's got to be put underneath there. So now everything's going to gain the Walking Blister ability. Can we make a creature big enough to just do a 1-shot here? 9 damage. So sacrifice 1, 2.
So everything you sacrifice onto the Ravager. Yeah. So everything you would sacrifice onto the Ravager adds 2 counters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would
we need Cauldron on the battlefield though. If Cauldron goes, it doesn't gain the Walking Blister part of it.
We can put like 6 on the you can 4 on this one and then transfer 5 over. I think we got it. But that's just like my very quick math. So we sacrifice the spear, so that puts Arcbot Ravager to 4. When we sacrifice the Arcbot Ravager, put 5 counters on the Wasp. But then I guess the question is, unless I missed something, is whether Adams wants to do that, because Alex might have like some kind of removal spell, but I don't think there's too many that really matter.
That's what we're playing around, right? Like, if I go for it and they've got it, how bad do I get blown out here?
Yeah. I think
Fury off the top is pretty good though.
I guess the thing is, Adams isn't forced to do it. They can just like sit back and wait for Alex to do something, because the Wasp kill with Cauldron is instant speed, so you can just like wait and maybe find something else until they commit to something, maybe tap out, like in this place.
Well, yeah, if the life totals are correct and we're taking 2 going down to 6, we're just going to shoot you for 2 here, shoot you for 4 here, and that should be game number 1, right? We're just going to move them all across. 8 damage to the face. GG going into game number 2 there. That means we can move across. Let's have a little look at the bean. Let's see how this is piling up. Yep, exactly how we thought it would be. We've got some 1 rings going on. We've got a lot of beans. We've got some Omnaths. We've got Teferis. We, more importantly, got an Elish Norn on the battlefield. That's got to be pretty good. That's going to turn off all the ETBs on Sean's side here.
Is that the one that also gives you like double ETBs on your side?
And it gives you double ETBs, yeah. So it's great for your beans, up the beans for your ley lines, bindings, getting 2 targets, etc. It's going to be pretty crazy. Remember that all 3 players could play the full 75 if they wanted to go that way. It could also all just play completely different decks, and that's what I think we've seen so far. I haven't seen a team with all 3 of the same deck, but we are in only round number 3. Remember, 7 rounds today, battling it out. So that's a Fury going to come down here.
Yeah,
this is sorry, that was interesting there on the Fury, right? So we evoked the Fury in, but we don't have the evoke trigger once it hits the battlefield because we've got Elish Norn on the battlefield.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up, right? It's kind of cool. And that way you get a free 3/3 double striker. Of course, you have to pitch something, but you're not paying for it. And as we get down another Teferi to bounce the Elish Norn. So you bounce the Elish Norn after using it. Very rude, very rude. That's just like the Teferi way.
So many cards in hand. This is only game number 1, remember, ladies and gentlemen.
You already mentioned this to me. Yeah, by the way, well, you already mentioned this to me, as you mentioned so many cards in hand, that this actually comes down to decking at times.
It can do, yeah. If you've got multiple beans on the battlefield, it is not a maybe, it is you must draw. Here comes a Ren and 6 coming down. That's going to return a land. Double Fury on the battlefield and Cliff at 7 life, though. This could be interesting.
Is there any kind of like commonly played mass removal in these bean stacks? I'm not really familiar.
Depending on the build, sometimes you can have like a board sweeper, but we could just play another ring, right? Give ourselves protection from everything for a turn, get back into the matchup. We're going to start off with 3 mana here, though. Could be Teferi.
We're going to need a bunch more of those if we want to make it work. Ideally, we get something that takes out something on the other side of the board and presents a blocker. Because if you just like try to trade 1-for-1 here, I think it's not gonna work.
Okay, so while the draw trigger from Omnath is on the stack, we're going to exile a white card from our hand, play this Solitude, get it out of there. They're going to gain 4 more life. We get to obviously draw a card because Bean is still on the battlefield. And that's what I mean.
Crazy, right?
We're just looking at the hand. There's multiple Solitudes over there, so it's not actually like we're in any harm of dying right now, but we do have to fire them off on our turn because there is a Teferi on the battlefield.
It's actually kind of crazy. Like both players are constantly recharging their hand, constantly redrawing free spells, like barely paying any mana, maybe for beans like we see here. And it almost feels like 2 non-magic combo decks going up against each other.
I'm going to say that we go down and look at the Yawgmoth matchup. What are you thinking?
Oh, dude, I'm down. I'm always down.
Let's do it. Let's see if we can get to table C as we go across. What we got here? Living End, turning and burning, pitting, cycling creatures into the graveyard. That's something that we're always going to see. Yawgmoth on the other side, adding to the mana. We've got a Wall of Roots in play. Plus, we can see a Chord of Calling in hand and an Eldritch Evolution. Interesting to see the Eldritch Evolution still in the deck. That's kind of been cut in a lot of lists that you see published recently. But we're going to just start firing it off right now. We're going to try and cascade into a Living End. Do we have something like an Endurance? We can currently chord for 1, 2, 3, chord for 2, which famously 2 is not free.
What are you gonna get here?
Interesting. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Interestingly,
2.
So what I've learned about that matchup was that Yawgmoth actually has a couple of tricks up its sleeve, right? Especially against Living End, where
Oh,
what is this?
okay. So this is interesting. This is one of the newer cards that has kind of started popping in. Instead of having trying to find yourself a free mana endurance, you can find this. I'm trying to find out the actual name of it because it's not a card I've ever really registered, but I know what it does. It basically stops Soulless Jailer. That's the one. Soulless Jailer. Opponents cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast non-creature spells from graveyard or exile. I remember with Cascade,
Oh,
the way it all kind of interacts and works means that it can't be played. So that's a great heads up play there. That's the main reason it's in the deck. It's on the screen for everybody to look at home. And that is the turn that you needed it. It is double-edged weapon, remember, so it does work for you as well as against your opponent. So we can't do some crazy shenanigans with it.
so I guess the idea behind it is that while you turn off basically most of your combo, your opponent is completely shut out. So you're trying to win a fair game, and if they ever remove it, you might be ready to just combo them on the spot or something.
Yeah, indeed. Welcome all the raiders from NRG Stream, my fellow Super League host. Hope you had a good stream, my friend. I believe you're probably battling out with Legacy or something crazy like that, probably involving up the beanstalk. I know that you have a dear affiliate with that card and how much you enjoy it. But welcome everybody jumping in. This is the NRG Triple Modern Team event that we're streaming this weekend. 7 rounds of modern action. All 3 teams can play the same deck or mix it up however they choose. But there is going to be 10k on the line. You're jumping in now in where we see Yawgmoth on the left of your screen, battling out against Living End. And here comes another quarter calling for 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Okay, so we've got options.
That must be Yawgmoth, right?
9 out of 10 times going to be Yawgmoth. There could be a Shield Dread potentially, but no, we're going to see Yawgmoth come down. The card's just so powerful.
It's really, really cool. Like if you're the first time I played with this in Modern, I was like, dude, I'm feeling the urge to actually make an EDH deck with Yawgmoth. I don't have one, but the card is way cooler than I first thought it would be when I saw it.
I don't
And,
play
Fletcher
EDH,
taking another look at this.
My friend's got a Yawgmoth EDH deck, and it's like CEDH. Apparently, it's really good and really broken.
It's good enough for CDH.
Crazy it can be. So, he wins a lot with it, I believe. So we see it on the battlefield there. For 2 and 2 black, we can cast a protection from humans 2/4 creature that has the abilities pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. The key bit there is up to 1 target creature. And then it also has a double black discard a card and proliferate. Not bad when you can put a lot of -1/-1 counters on your opponent's board and kind of deal with it in one full sweep, or grow your team, grow your grist, and start ultimating it quicker that way.
What's the most common way for Fletcher to get back into this? Are we gonna use some, let's say, Fairy Trickster or something to bounce the jailer? Or I mean, we're not gonna get back into this by randomly casting our big creatures, right? I mean, Living End sometimes does that, but it doesn't look like the kind of game where this is gonna work.
Well, I imagine it means we need our 4th land drop and start hard casting 4/4 flyers. It's probably the main way to get back into it. It doesn't play not endurance, fury like you'd see in the rhinos lists that we saw in the earlier rounds. This one we rely on things like grief to try and make the way out. We're more all in on our combo than being able to actually hard cast and win the game that way. But endurance is going to come down here off the Eldritch Evolution. That means in case the worst does happen, they manage to find a way of getting the jailer off the battlefield, that a cascade could not happen into a Living End with great effect. Also, it's got a 3/4 body, so it's quite big and can get this down to turn itself sideways and close this game out, leveling it up potentially.
I mean, it looks like we're gonna get what you love the most, right? The game 3.
There's a good chance that, but you see there on the bottom of your screen, looks like we have a winner for game number 1 in our Bean Mirror. Sean taking that one down. So while they're going to sideboard up, we'll let them keep going there. We'll stick on this matchup because let's be honest, Yawgmoth's a lot more cool to watch, especially these interactions. So can we get Fletcher? Can he get back into this matchup? We'll find out shortly.
It's going to be pretty hard, right? You mentioned it's not going to work the normal way. I mean, Fletcher might as well just try and see what he can make work there, but
you
doesn't really inspire the greatest
right?
of confidence in me there.
Especially in a team event, you're always going to play. You're going to play for your team At the end of the day, you're not just going to try and concede early, especially when you've got like a good 5 to 10% chance of getting back in this game. We're seeing a swamp cycle here. One of the reasons why we did see a spike in these living end decks, because they gained all the Lord of the Rings creatures that could cycle for swamp lands. I think there's a plains one as well. It doesn't see as much play, but that means that we can cut down on our land count in the deck, adding more cyclers to it.
And there's
Here
also
comes combat.
the end one, right? The 5/7 or something, if I remember correctly.
I think the one in the grave, yeah, and the Ent one, yeah, the Ent one and the Troll are the main ones you see played in the Living End list. The Cave Troll, when it comes out of the graveyard, is pretty big. Here comes a Brazen Burrower, end of turn, bouncing the Jailer back to hand. That gives us a one-shot chance to potentially resolve a Living End, which on this board state could be pretty harsh. Let's have a little look.
But it's also going to depend, right? Now that Rodney actually has that Yawgmoth, there's an option to basically sacrifice
you
a bunch of your
sacrifice the
creatures.
whole board.
Yeah, and then you get out of it back. Like, there's still a chance that Fletcher has enough to still come out ahead on that exchange, but right now, I guess I favor Rodney. It's kind of awkward, right? You kind of also want to bounce Yawgmoth and then see what Rodney does in response, but you don't really have the mana to make all of that work on the same turn.
No, I think you're right. So in response to a Living End, we would sacrifice our whole board, draw a bunch of cards. But if we've got the ability to do it on our opponent's turn, I'm pretty sure we do it on our opponent's turn, and I think the Fletcher agrees with me here. Untap, tapped off our deck, draw. Keeping them close to the chest, not letting any of us know either.
I guess if Fletcher was gonna bounce that Jailer as he did, there must be a plan behind this, right? So he must feel confident that if he goes for a Living End here, it's gonna be good enough. Otherwise, you just like let this come down. Yeah, and he goes for it straight.
This is the line I think I would have played as well, and I like this. Before combat, we might see a response here. There's no instant speed ways, I believe, unless there's another endurance in hand. We're going to start flipping cards off top of our deck. And remember, Living Ends worded very differently. Each player exiles the cards in play and then exiles the graveyard and then swaps them. It's not like a sacrifice effect or a destroy effect that you typically see. You sacrifice it, they all go into exile, then you swap them around.
Ooh, and there's an endurance to fight over this. There's endurance and it looks like subtlety, right? Does Fletcher have subtlety? I believe yes. So. Pitching another one.
An endurance and then the subtlety on the endurance. Do you want to put it on top or bottom of your deck? Be interested if this is resolving. Okay, we're sorting the stack out here for everybody at home. So this is on the stack. I'm casting Violent Outburst in response. That's going to cascade into the Living End. The Living End is going to be cast, then it's going to be the endurance, and then it's going to be the subtlety, and then the subtlety is going to go to the graveyard.
And you can redraw the endurance here.
Yep, we can sacrifice this creature, draw a card. That means the endurance is going to go to hand. We've got 3 mana up. We can still cast it. So yeah, getting the stack out there, line them up, making sure everything happens the way it should do is going to be able to mean that Rodney can take that game down. We're going to move back to our middle matchup where we've got Rakdos Scan versus Hardened Scales. We see a Leyline of the Void and Hardened Scales already on the battlefield. Why would you be bringing Leyline of the Void in this matchup?
So I would guess, like, my first instinct is it shuts off Modular, right? I don't know if there's like an additional benefit from it, but shutting off Modular should already be a big thing considering how much the deck relies on that. Is there anything else on top of that?
I suppose it stops Cauldron as well, right? Like Cauldron means that we can't exile things like Walking Blister in the graveyard. But do we have...
Actually, that's really good. Like, you shut off a lot of angles that way.
Yeah, yeah, it's good enough. More is the module, so you're not scared of the big combo finish that they can do when they sacrifice everything, put it onto an Yawgmoth, so to speak, in 10 hours. As we see Cauldron in hand.
That's pretty rough. Like basically 2 Cauldrons that don't do as much as we wanted them to, and like we got the Dismember, easy take there, and then we are literally sitting, like Adams is literally sitting there with just the Walking Ballista, and that's gonna be a tall order to ride that to victory.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be an uphill battle. Not out of the realms of it, though. The deck is pretty crazy in how it can be. Here comes the 1/1 with Ward.
Patchwork Automaton, I believe.
That's it. Correct, Patchwork. That's the one. I was trying to work out what, and I was like, it's Automaton, but which Automaton is it?
There are so many. Okay.
Well, it's one of the newer cards that sees play in this deck, right? Because it can get it can get pretty big pretty quick, because whenever we cast an artifact, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on it. And with hardened scales on the battlefield, this can go pretty big pretty fast. So it is kind of a we need to deal with it sooner rather than later before it grows too big.
Yeah, and also if you make it so that you get Soul Quadron going on at some point, and you give the Walking Ballista ability to this guy, you can shoot the opponent like in a single turn once again. Like very explosive way to play the game with this one.
Here comes Fable the Mirror Breaker bringing along a Goblin Shaman token. We'd seen this a lot yesterday in Pioneer. We're seeing it quite a bit today in Modern already. Super powerful enchantment. You know, if on paper, when this got printed, if you told me this was going to see multiple play in multiple different formats, I would not have believed you. But who am I? You know, it sees lots and lots of play in different formats and is super powerful in all of them. We're playing our hand out here. Might as well play the Cauldron out so we get a +1/+1 counter. Remember, that is going to be 2 because of the scales on the battlefield. And this is what I mean about it going kind of over the top. This deck being super, super powerful and explosive at times, even with a ley line on the battlefield. Because we can still target our opponent's creatures in the graveyard if any do go in there.
Is there anything interesting that we could steal? Like basically, not
it's
steal,
more
but
the scam effect, right? So they have to enter the battlefield before they the graveyard before they bounce back. So having it on the battlefield means that we can shoot it while it's in the graveyard and potentially add more counters to our creatures.
Oh, that's smart. I guess okay. So in that way, we can still use the Cauldron for that. Is that a Blood Moon? No. That wouldn't be a Blood Moon, right? In hand for Alex there. Looks like a land.
That is a Blood Moon that's just been discarded.
Okay.
That's one of the newer art ones.
Fury and is that Colligan's Command?
I believe that's a Colligan's Command. Now that's a good one in this matchup, right? Because it has a shatter effect as well as a shock effect attached to it.
The only awkward thing is we need to pay the ward too for the automaton, so I guess we can really only try to go after the ballista there.
Well, no, because we can attack, right? We can shock this in, attack, get a treasure token that gives us the 5 mana that we need.
Yeah, if we want to spend all of our mana, yeah. But
okay.
Adam has something to say about that.
That's a huge play there. That's a huge read where we kind of got punished for playing our land first and shocking it before going to combat. Because now we've got the extra mana, it doesn't really do anything. But if we went to combat, generated the token, yeah, sure, you block it against chumped, whatever. Then I play my land and shock it in. I have access to 5 mana. But because we did it first, that's us think, okay, you must have something that you want to cast. And, you worked out that. Super heads up play there.
You're like, sometimes you're oozing a little bit of information here and there, and if the opponent picks up on that, they can really punish you for it. And yeah, I mean, there's a reason, right? Once players get to an intermediate level, we always teach about like first you attack, then you play the land unless you have to do it otherwise. And slight mess up here, and yeah, Adams very heads up, punishing the play and getting the turn just passed back to them. Looks like
it's actually really impressive. Like, if you think about it, like how much of a big brain play line that was to get that read and actually have, the guts to go for it. Because now there's no Walking Ballista, which is obviously one of the cards that we want on the battlefield, so we can close down the game even quicker. But that's super heads up play, really, really smart, intelligent line there, high level magic. But how can we adapt our board and move forward?
Also, really interesting. These kinds of plays I see out of people who have played certain matchups quite a lot. And then they already know, in this position, what are the cards that matter the most to me? Oh, they are 5 mana. Oh, the opponent just demonstrated they're about to go to 5 mana. Okay, let me try to stop that. Because there's also a reasonable case to be made to like not do that, right? Because if Adams draws a land, they can get the ballista to 4, then to 6 and stuff. But they were like, no, I have to take this out. 5 mana is the problem zone, so let's just not do that. Okay, you got a Hangerback Walker here. We grow our automaton even more. Like, dudes, what do you think? How big is this thing gonna get? Are we gonna get a 10-10 at some point?
I was working out what was happening there. So we played the Hangerback for 0. So it triggers, goes to the graveyard, but more importantly, we gain 2 extra counters on the patchwork. So now we're looking to play another Cauldron, which will make it 6. Or 7 power, sorry.
I mean, it makes sense, right? The Hangerback Walker, we are not going to get the triggered ability through ley lines, so we're really only using it to pump this one. And
okay, that's it. That's enough. Like, literally playing that land on that turn in that sequence end up costing the matchup there. So, but that means we get to go down to our Yawgmoth matchup, though. Let's have a little look, see what's going on down here. If we're starting off with a Dried Arbor, it's not going well. That's what I'm gonna say. Drylar is not the land you want to be starting with on turn number 1, but you kind of know it's safe playing against the living end deck. It doesn't have a Fury or any sort of dead gone effects in it. That is more for the Rhinos list. So we're going to play into the Wall of Roots. Wall of Roots is going to get a -0, -1 counter and bring along with it a Young Wolf. Young Wolf is going to hit the battlefield. Do we
Yawgmoth, it's one of those cards, you got it in there, right? It helps you with like enabling combos, getting some like, it's also like just fodder for your sacrifice creatures or even Yawgmoth. But overall, you're not too thrilled for this to be your second turn play, right? I guess you still set up for a decent turn 3, but as I say that, Grief comes down, it's probably going to take out your payoff in this case. Okay, I guess we got 2 payoff spells in Yawgmoth and Court of Calling.
Yeah.
What do you want to hold on to here more? I mean, assuming that we get to keep one of those, which is like not guaranteed.
So they're both awkward here, right? One of them can go find a way to stop my game plan, as in things coming back from the graveyard. The other one can pit the whole board back into the graveyard, so when a living end resolves, it all comes back. So it's kind of weighing up what are our options here. How do I want to kind of battle around this? What's more likely? Working out your opponent's game plan with mana. Do they have enough mana to be able to cord for Jailer next turn? Let's work it out one. So that we go untap, play land, play Wall of Roots. Yeah, we've definitely got enough to go get Jailer in our opponent's turn there. So I think it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other in this situation, unless we've got something like another Grief. But once we're casting a Grief, exile and the other Grief, it can be rough. We could go take the chord here, play land, cascade, get back the Grief from the graveyard. If we have a way to be able to cascade this turn, I can see taking the chord in this scenario.
But there's a good chance, I guess, we're gonna get that Grief again. Then again, if we actually had the opportunity to get Grief back, we might have already done that on the last turn, unless we drew like one of our Undying effects. So there's some kind of read that you can have on Rodney's side that the Grief is not gonna come back.
Oh, one point out there, only one black mana. So we can't play the Yawgmoth unless they drew a black source. So
looks like we didn't find one.
Even more reason to get the chord there. And now do I want to play my creatures out into it? Do I want to play another Wall of Roots? Because there's a good chance if a living end resolves, I'm going to lose my board. I think I hedge towards I would. I'm like, they obviously, if they've got the land drop and they've got it, I'm not winning this game anyway. Look at all the creatures in the graveyard already. They're going to be tearing my hand apart no matter what. It's going to be super hard to get back into this because Dried Arbor is also a creature.
So you're basically saying you wouldn't bet your entire game on that young wolf getting there? So you're happy to run out your additional creatures?
Don't get me wrong, I've won a lot of games from Young Wolf Beatdown, especially with Pendlehaven on the battlefield. I love that this deck now plays Pendlehaven. Works out really well with things like Bowmaster, Dried Arbor, etc. As you see pulled to the front here, moving away from the lands. Thanks, Gab Nassif, for that little rules interaction that we see now.
By the way, that's Blood Artist, right?
Yep, that's a Blood
Artist.
So
I was told that if you memorize like a 48-step combo, you can actually play without Blood Artist and still win the game, and that saves you basically that kill slot in that deck. But I don't know if that's how people
I'm
really
not
do it.
aware of that. I'm not sure if that's a thing. But
it's a thing where you have like two endurances and you shuffle your deck back every time, and then you literally get to a point where you can kill without having Blood Artist, or what's the other one? That's Human with Chainsaw. You can have neither of those instances. Yeah, that's basically 2 ways to kill with this deck, like Blood Artist, and then there's another one. There's a set in there. I don't remember. Chat will surely know it.
But what's the combo? That's what I'm trying to work out. It's like, what? Okay, you turn and burn through your deck, but what's the win con?
I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, get back to it. I'd be interested. I love learning more interactions about this deck and how it works. Maybe you're talking about Hapatra. Hapatra can kill everything on the other side of the battlefield, but it's not a win. It's just
Hapatra is the snake lady, right?
Yeah, the snake lady, or poisons lady. Cutthroat is the other version of Blood Artist, and sometimes some people play Cutthroat to get around the one ring. Yeah. But there is the third land drop. That is what we did not want to see here on Rodney's side. Because now Cascade spells can be cast. Is it going to cast at sorcery or instant speed, though? That's what we need to know. I think we know Yawgmoth is
top of the deck.
Top of the deck?
Yeah,
Oh
it
yeah,
got subtleties.
yeah, seen. So I would like to, and if we do this in the draw step and then we cascade, we know there's grief in the graveyard.
We're not even. Oh,
Yeah.
we're doing it just during draw step. Okay, sure.
I imagine it's draw step, right? So now it's in hand. That means we've got a target for our grief. That is, we know is going to be returning. All the battlefield's going to go, and unfortunately, for Rodney, they're just going to be left with 3 lands on the battlefield.
I was wondering whether like Rodney would be in a position where he just wants to put another -1/-1 counter on the Wall of Fruits on the opponent's turn, and then like kill it on his own turn so he can get it back with Living End at this point. But maybe that's too cute.
It's going to be marginal. It's going to be very, very marginal if this is relevant. I don't think Yawgmoth comes back, does it?
It should. Oh no, it's
You
gets
get Living End up
sacrificed.
on
Yeah,
the screen to read the text. I think it exiles,
I think
right?
it should, right? No, the graveyard gets exiled and then comes into play, and everything else
do we
in play gets
sacrifice everything
sacrificed.
in play then?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So if it's sacrifice, yeah, it would end up coming back. But so does all these creatures that we see in the background. This is 6, 9, 19 power.
I think
19
you call
power
it
on
a
the battlefield.
bunch.
Is that
And
good?
some swamp walking. I hear it's pretty good. It's not as good as a dragon, but we are pretty close to it.
Turn it all sideways, scoop them up. That means the team of Cliff, Adams, and Fletcher are going to be taking this one down. So congratulations to them. It means that we didn't have to watch that bean mirror anymore, because that is every time we went in there, it's just a stack of permanents on that. I know some people love to play with Up the Beanstalk. Multiples of copy of that card make the game go crazy. I think when we looked in, each player has something like 10 cards in their hand, as well as rings on the battlefield, as well as planeswalkers, omnaths. It's just like, oh my word, what's going on here? So we stick it to the more detailed decks, should I say, more finesse decks.
I'm still waiting for like the finals being 6 Beanstalk decks, and then like we're just like forced to go through with it all the way.
That's Joe Mason's problem. That's not us, not ours. That's
why we do
their
the
problem,
right?
I'm being told that we're going to try and move one of the winners into the game, into our booth, so we can have a little question and answer with them, see why they bought their team this weekend, why the team bought those decks, etc. So if you've got any questions for them, this winners interview is going to be the place to ask it. So make sure you type all those questions in chat for us while we kind of move them across. So I think we'll go back to the theme that we were bringing up at the end of last round is secret layers. There's a lot of different arts now on a lot of different cards, and it makes our life a nuisance being commentators trying to pick up on what they all are. That's why we thank you, chat, for helping us out all the time, telling us what those cards are when we don't really catch them. But I want to know, what is the best secret lair that we can make as a community? What would you want to see? Me, I want to see a Teenage Ninja Turtles secret lair.
Ooh.
I would like to see that. You know what I mean?
Which one's your favorite turtle?
Leonardo. I would like to see like Leonardo's swords as like an equipment, and like Donatello's staff as an equipment, stuff like that. I think that'd be a pretty cool secret lair. Let me know what you've got. I'll start shouting them out to and talking about to Julian. Maybe he agrees with you, maybe he doesn't. Have you got any secret lair, like a good one off the top of your head?
I've got a very specific one, as we talked about this on my podcast the other month, and I would love to see a Monkey Island, the Secret of Monkey Island secret layer. Raise your hands in chat if you know what Monkey Island is, because I just heard that Will is not familiar with Monkey Island. Like, how is that's like serious? That's like a crime against humanity. Seriously, chat, back me up on this. Like Monkey Island, you people, know about Monkey Island, right?
Well, someone said adore the Explorer Expedition map one.
I have like the 2 original printings of or like releases of Monkey Island 1 and 2 over there. Okay, somebody, we got one hand in chat. Okay,
you got one. That's enough. That's enough to mean that it's real. You didn't make it up.
Monkey Island 6. See, okay, now people are slowly warming up to it. Yeah. But if you want to do something that's a little less niche, I guess at this point, I could see like Attack on Titan. I recently watched Attack on Titan for the very first time, and I've been in mad love with it. So I could very much see that. I don't know how it works, like licensing wise. I mean,
this goes down. Let's say that nothing.
Yeah. Let's ignore that part of it.
We can pick
Dark
what we
Souls,
want.
dude. Do you see that in Dark Souls? Caritas, I could see Dark Souls secret layer. Let's do it. I could
see a Dark Souls coming out and being pretty good. Yeah, I'd take that one. We've always got the 40k one, and I've kind of got into 40k a lot recently.
That was so good.
And Aladdin one where we see Ragavan as the Abu from Aladdin. I'm down for that. I could take a bit of that. That'd be pretty cool.
That sounds like a great idea.
Don't think we'd ever get that license from Disney, but here we are. I think we've got ourselves someone to interview. I get a winners one from our winning team. Adams, how are you doing? Congratulations on taking that down. It's very stellar performance, fighting through that ley line of the void to start off with. You know what I mean? Like that one coming in. What were your thoughts when you saw that? When they like, hold on, pre-game effects.
So I like asked about it up front because I was like, this is probably what's gonna happen. Admittedly, one of the things that I've learned playing the deck is like I see a ley line, I look down at my hand and was like, all right, cool, that's fine, whatever. There was a chance that if I drew like 2 Ravagers in a row, then I likely would have lost that game. But given the way my hand shaped up and what it looked like at the very beginning, I wasn't super concerned about it. It was a mild annoyance.
Okay.
Just a moment.
Yeah. Dude, I was wondering because Hardened Scales is, to me, one of the most complicated decks I've ever seen in Modern. And actually, I tried to figure it out and like find a lot of lines yesterday night as I was preparing for this. And people constantly told me, don't even try. So I was wondering, have you been playing this for a very long time? And are you what they would call like
reps.
a Hardened Scales master? Or 0 reps, just go into it blind?
Reps.
0 reps and you bought scales?
Yeah. Look, sometimes you got to look deep inside yourself and decide, I'm not respecting anyone else in the room today.
Today's a Scales day.
So
that makes my next question really easy. It's Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Give me your thoughts on how good that card is.
Oh, that card's ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Admittedly, like I did used to play a lot of Old Affinity, and that deck actually had some really difficult math. It turns out when you can just turn all of your creatures into ballistas at any given point, and also like it pumps your best creature just by existing. It makes the deck significantly easier to play. I do think there are some really difficult lines that are like a little annoying to figure out, but I don't think this deck is remotely playable without the Cauldron. Before this, it was just a stone copium deck.
Oh, is that bad?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like before. It was a combo aggro deck with a really slow clock that required you to invest a lot of resources into accelerating your clock. And also, once you accelerated your clock, you still lost to Bolt, Push, Solitude, Fury. And, like, now you at least don't have to attack with the dumb 1/1 in order to get a win going. The number of times you just stick a bunch of counters off an Ozolith onto a Yawgmoth Nexus and then just don't bother attacking. Fantastic. Also, if you all got to watch Game 1, I didn't have to attack the last 3 turns of that game because I just got to sit on everything being a ballista. And then as soon as my opponent breathed, I just domed them for 8. Like, that's what makes the deck good.
That's a good way to put it.
I shouted you out. I said that you had such a good heads-up play. When they shocked in that Blood Crypt and they needed the treasure token, I think they should have done it in the other order. They should have attacked and then done the land. But because they shocked it and you knew something was up, you were like, no, wait. I'm going to shoot I'm going to shoot that Goblin Shaman token with my Ballista before it. That is such a heads-up discipline play. I need to congratulate you for that. I think that might be my highlight so far of the weekend casting. Might be the best play I've seen. It was so good. So heads up, congratulations on that one.
Thank you. It was a strange turn because like I was probably going to shoot the Goblin anyway, but once they shocked it in, I was like, all right, cool, I'm killing this. The only thing that matters is Fatal Push now. And if they don't have exactly Fatal Push, any artifact off the top wins the game. I do agree. The opponent likely just had a minor brain fart. It happens to the best of us. Or just like too many cooks in the kitchen asking for advice when, your gut's likely the better answer or whatever. But I do think shocking in that Blood Crypt was probably game losing.
It was the extra 2 life, which, if they had that, would have been 9 and they dropped to 2. But they had Colligan's Command in hand, which would have been a super blowout for you because it would have been able to shoot both your creatures and paying the ward. So, I really think that I can't go over how good that line of play was. So, congratulations to that. Next question, Julia.
Yeah, I was wondering, we were talking about this earlier. When you set up your team, did you have any discussions about what people should play, or were your teammates like, are you sure you want to play Hardened Scales without any reps, or do you trust each other enough that you're like, okay, you just do what you want to do?
I love Fletcher and Cliff to death. They're both very good friends of mine, but they had some choice words for me when I decided to pivot off of Scam. The worst part is I was like, pivoting off of blue-black control onto Scam, correct choice. Pivoting off of Scam onto Scales, probably stone incorrect, but it's working out so far. But we definitely had a lot of really long conversations about the deck theoretically. I do have to give a shout out to Andrea Piemonte here. I saw his deck list with a couple of like really good cards to fix the Scam matchup and improve the Beans matchup, and they've been absolutely fantastic pretty much all day.
Well, yeah, you can't go wrong with a Piemonte deck. You know, he bits up some very good results, plays a lot of Magic at very high level. Also super nice if you ever get to meet him. So I'm going to end on the last question. We've got a topic that I'm going back and forth with chat, and it's about secret lairs, right? If you could make your own secret lair, what would you make it?
Ooh, that's a good one. I've thought about it a good amount. I would probably say if I were going to abracadabra my own secret lair, I'm gonna cheat a little bit.
On the spot.
My deep gut reaction is I want a Sonic the Hedgehog secret lair.
Oh, okay.
Very bad.
Yeah.
But I think the cooler thing to do would be a secret lair that sort of honors the tradition of competitive Magic, and each of the individual cards are various grinders and Pro Tour players from across the game's history. That's the kind of secret lair I would really want.
Anything off the top of your head that you'd make? Any random cards? Like, I don't know.
John Finkel, Planeswalker.
Oh, please. Please.
Let's go.
Give
I'm
me
down
a Johnny
for that.
Magic. Give me PVDDR, the GOAT. Just Ragavan with
a goat?
haste. Please.
I'm down for a bit of that. Well, we're going to let you get off with your teammates, have a little bit of rest in between rounds. So congratulations. Hopefully we get to see more of you throughout this tournament. Keep up the good work. Congratulations. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job. See you.
Y'all have a good one.
Appreciate it. Right, we're going to head back to the booth. If you are just tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, where have you been all weekend? We've been here battling out yesterday in Pioneer. Today it's Team Trios Modern. Yesterday we started 227 players, all battling out until we whittled it down to our final last player that managed to take it down this morning. That, of course, was none other than Jonathan Hobbs on his Rakdos mid-range list. But now we're battling out in Modern. Team Trios, 105 teams. 3 apiece, that's 315 for everybody that's quick at math out there, battling out in the Modern 10K. We've got 7 rounds battling it out before we get to that top 8. We are the morning shift. My name is Will Hall. That is Julian Hobbs, and this is going to be the end of round number 3. So we're going to have a short little break while we swap the players around, get them seated for round number 4. Sit down, don't go anywhere. See you soon.